The mahogany table stretched between us like a battlefield. Mom's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her wine glass as she surveyed the Sunday dinner spread with the same critical eye she used on everything else in her life. Dad sat at the head of the table, checking his phone between bites, probably reviewing another property deal. My older brother Marcus leaned back in his chair with that insufferable smirk he'd perfected over 32 years of being the golden child. "So Jamie," Mom began, her tone dripping with forced interest. "Still shuffling papers at that little trading firm?" I took a sip of water. "Something like that." "It's been what, 7 years?" Marcus chimed in. "Most people make partner by now. Or at least move up from entry-level work." "I'm not entry-level," I said calmly, cutting into my salmon. Dad finally looked up from his phone. "But you're still essentially an employee, right? Working for someone else?" "At your age, I owned 3 apartment buildings. Different industries, Dad." "That's the problem," Mom interjected. "Real estate is tangible. You can see it, touch it. What do? Move numbers around on a screen? Gamble with other people's money?" "I manage investments." Marcus laughed. "Manage investments? That's a fancy way of saying you're a middleman. You know what my quarterly bonus was last quarter? 400,000. From actual real estate deals. Actual buildings with actual tenants paying actual rent." "That's wonderful, Marcus." "Don't patronize me, Jamie. I'm just saying, maybe if you'd listen to Dad and come into the family business instead of chasing some Wall Street fantasy, you'd actually have something to show for yourself by now." Mom nodded in agreement. "Marcus has already bought 2 investment properties this year alone. He's building real wealth. Generational wealth." "I'm aware." "Are you?" Dad set his phone down, giving me his full attention for the first time that evening. "Because from where I'm sitting, you're 30 years old, still renting that tiny apartment in Manhattan, driving a 6-year-old Honda and working 80-hour weeks for what? A modest salary and the hope of a decent bonus. My apartment is fine. My car runs." "That's exactly the mentality that's holding you back," Mom said, shaking her head. "You settle for fine while your brother thrives. Do you know what he drives? A Mercedes S-Class. Fully loaded. I've seen it. And you're not embarrassed?" Marcus leaned forward. "Little sister, I'm trying to help you here. There's still time to pivot. Come work for Dad and me. Learn the real estate game. Start building actual assets instead of playing with spreadsheets." "I'm not playing with anything." "Oh, honey," Mom's voice took on that pitying tone I'd heard my entire life. "We know you're trying. We just worry that you've invested 7 years into something that's never going to give you the returns you deserve. The stock market is so volatile. So unpredictable. It's really not if you know what you're doing." Dad scoffed. "Everyone thinks they know what they're doing until the market crashes. Remember 2008? Lehman Brothers? Bear Stearns? All those experts who thought they knew what they were doing. I remember. And you still chose this path. Despite seeing what happened. Despite having a perfectly good opportunity to join a stable, profitable family business." He shook his head in disappointment. "I don't understand you, Jamie. You don't have to understand me." "There it is," Marcus said, throwing his napkin on the table. "That attitude. That stubborn, prideful attitude that's kept you spinning your wheels for 7 years. I'm not spinning my wheels." "No? Then what do you have to show for it? Where's your house? Your luxury car? Your investment portfolio?" Marcus gestured around the room. "This house we're sitting in, I helped Dad buy it. The chandelier above us? I picked it out. The wine we're drinking? From my collection. What have you contributed to this family besides worry?" I set down my fork carefully. "I contribute plenty." "Like what?" Mom challenged. "You missed Dad's birthday party because you were working. You couldn't make it to Marcus's engagement celebration because of some big meeting. You're always too busy with work to spend time with family, but you have nothing to show for all that sacrifice. You don't know what I have." "We know you're still renting," Dad said flatly. "We know you don't own property. We know you're not wealthy enough to stop working if you wanted to. That tells us everything we need to know." The television in the corner of the dining room had been playing quietly in the background, tuned to CNBC like it always was in Dad's house. He liked to keep an eye on the financial markets, even though he claimed stocks were for suckers. The sound was low, just the murmur of market commentary and ticker symbols scrolling across the bottom of the screen. You know what your problem is? Marcus continued. You bought into the myth. The American dream of Wall Street. The idea that you could be Gordon Gekko or Warren Buffett. But that's not reality for people like us. Reality is brick and mortar. Physical assets. Marcus is right, Mom added. And it's not too late to change course. You're still young. You could come work with your father and brother, learn the business properly, and in 5 years, you could own your first building. In 10 years, you could have a portfolio worth millions. I appreciate the concern. That's not an answer, Dad said sternly. Your mother and I have been talking. We're worried about your future. About your financial security. We think it's time for an intervention. An intervention? We want you to seriously consider leaving that firm and joining the family business. We'll start you at a generous salary, teach you everything you need to know, and give you a path to real ownership. Real wealth. I took another sip of water. That's not necessary. Jamie, please. Mom's voice cracked slightly. We're not trying to hurt you. We love you. We just want to see you succeed. Is that so wrong? I am succeeding. How? Marcus demanded. Show us. Prove it. Show us your bank account. Show us your investment portfolio. Show us anything that proves you're not just treading water while lying to yourself about being successful. I don't need to prove anything to you. Because you can't, Dad concluded. Because there's nothing to show. You're a stockbroker, Jamie. A middleman. An employee. And there's no shame in that, but let's at least be honest about what it is. I'm not just a stockbroker. Then what are you? Marcus challenged. Enlighten us. What's your impressive title? Senior associate? Vice president? Those are just fancy words for employee. I manage a portfolio. Whose portfolio? Mom asked. Your clients? So you manage other people's money, take a percentage, and call that success? Honey, that's not building wealth. That's earning a salary with extra steps. The television suddenly got louder. Someone had turned up the volume. I glanced over to see one of the CNBC anchors looking excited, the breaking news banner flashing across the screen. We're interrupting regular programming for breaking financial news, the anchor announced. After months of speculation, we can finally reveal the identity of the mysterious investor known only as JM, who has been making waves in the financial world with unprecedented returns. Can someone turn that down? Dad asked irritably. We're having a family discussion. But Marcus had frozen, staring at the screen. Wait. Hold on. JM has been described as the most brilliant investment mind of this generation, the anchor continued. Operating in complete secrecy for the past 7 years, this portfolio manager has achieved returns that Wall Street analysts are calling mathematically impossible. Today, in a mandatory SEC disclosure filing, the identity has been revealed. Mom's hand went to her throat. Jamie, that's your firm. The portfolio manager is 30-year-old Jamie Michelle Chin, and the total portfolio value is being reported at $3.2 billion. The dining room went completely silent except for the television. Billion. Dad whispered. Over the past 7 years, the anchor continued, Ms. Chin has transformed an initial personal investment of just $50,000 into a multi-billion-dollar portfolio through a combination of early-stage venture capital investments, strategic options trading, and what insiders are calling predictive analytics that border on clairvoyance. Marcus's face had gone pale. That's not possible. Among her notable investments, she was the first outside investor in a now major electric vehicle company, providing crucial seed funding in 2018. She held a significant stake in 3 separate pharmaceutical companies that all successfully brought drugs to market. She predicted and profited from 4 separate market corrections. And according to SEC filings, she personally owns between 5 and 8% of 12 different Fortune 500 companies. Jamie. Mom's voice was barely audible. I continued eating my salmon. Financial analysts are calling this the most impressive individual investment performance in modern history, the anchor said. Her 7-year compound annual growth rate exceeds 200%. For context, Warren Buffett's lifetime CAGR is approximately 20%. Ms. Chin has revolutionized quantitative investing. Dad grabbed the remote and turned the volume up higher. We go now to our Wall Street correspondent who's outside Chin Capital Management. Sarah. The screen switched to a reporter standing outside a sleek Manhattan skyscraper that I recognized immediately because I'd bought it 3 years ago. The name, Chin Capital, was visible in gleaming letters behind her. Tom, the scene here is absolute pandemonium. Within minutes of the SEC filing going public, investors have been calling, emailing, and literally showing up at the building trying to get their money into Jamie Chen's funds. Her firm has been operating under a strict invitation-only policy, with a minimum investment of $10 million and a waiting list that industry insiders say is longer than Harvard's. Marcus made a choking sound. What makes this revelation even more remarkable, Sarah continued, is Chen's age. At 30 years old, she's the youngest self-made billionaire in finance, and she did it entirely through her own investment acumen, not inheritance or a lucky IPO. She's been described by former colleagues as frighteningly intelligent and able to see patterns that computers miss. Turn it off, Marcus said hoarsely. We've obtained statements from several of Chen's early clients, Sarah went on. One tech entrepreneur says Chen turned his $2 million investment into $47 million over 6 years. A retired CEO credits Chen with growing his $20 million retirement fund to $380 million. The returns are unprecedented. Mom was staring at me with her mouth open. What's particularly interesting, the anchor interjected, is Chen's personal holdings. According to the SEC filing, her personal wealth is estimated at $3.2 billion, but that's separate from the $14 billion in assets she manages for clients. Combined, she's responsible for over $17 billion in investment capital. $17 billion, Dad repeated numbly. Industry experts are already calling her the most sought-after investment manager in the world. Her fund is closed to new investors, and existing clients reportedly have contractual agreements preventing them from withdrawing funds for at least 5 years. Those contracts, which seemed restrictive at the time, now look like the best decision those investors ever made. My phone, sitting face down next to my plate, began vibrating continuously. Then Dad's phone lit up. Then Mom's. Then Marcus's. We're also hearing, Sarah added, that Chen owns significant real estate holdings in Manhattan, including the building we're standing in front of, valued at approximately $200 million, and a personal residence in Tribeca purchased for $45 million in cash 3 years ago. Marcus pushed back from the table, his chair scraping loudly. This is a joke. This is some kind of prank. Her investment strategy is being compared to legends like George Soros and Peter Lynch, the anchor continued. But what sets Chen apart is her age and the speed of her success. 7 years. 50,000 to $3 billion in 7 years. It's a financial fairy tale, except it's completely real and documented. I finally looked up from my plate. Can someone pass the salt? Nobody moved. We understand Chin Capital Management will be holding a press conference tomorrow morning, Sarah said. Given the market impact of this disclosure, several stocks Chin is known to hold have already jumped 10 to 15% in after-hours trading. This could be one of the most watched financial events of the year. Dad found his voice first. Jamie, is this real? The salt, please. Marcus grabbed his phone and started typing frantically. Mom just stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Dad's face had gone from pale to red and back to pale again. According to sources, the anchor continued, Chen has been personally interviewed by the Treasury Secretary about her investment models. The SEC has reviewed her trading patterns 3 separate times and found no irregularities, just remarkably prescient decision-making. MIT has reportedly offered her a position as visiting professor of financial engineering. You told us you managed a portfolio, Mom whispered. I do. A $17 billion portfolio. Technically $3.2 billion is mine. The rest belongs to clients. Marcus slammed his phone down. It's true. It's all over Bloomberg, Reuters, the Wall Street Journal. You're everywhere. They're calling you, they're saying you're the most successful investor of her generation, Dad finished, reading from his own phone. Several hedge fund managers have already issued statements, Sarah reported, saying they've been trying to recruit Chen for years with offers exceeding $50 million per year in guaranteed compensation. She's turned them all down to run her own firm. $50 million per year? Mom's voice had gone up an octave. In salary alone, the anchor clarified. plus carried interest on returns which would likely have doubled or tripled that figure. But Chin apparently values independence over compensation. We also have reports, Sarah added, that Chin has made substantial philanthropic contributions under a private foundation. Approximately $200 million to various educational and scientific research initiatives over the past 3 years, though she's kept those donations anonymous until now. I reached across the table myself and grabbed the salt shaker. Jamie, Dad's voice was strange, like he was talking to a stranger. Why didn't you tell us? I tried to. You kept interrupting. You said you managed investments. I do. I manage substantial investments with exceptional returns for a select group of clients while maintaining a personal portfolio that has appreciated significantly. That's not. You should have been clearer. I told you I wasn't entry-level. I told you I manage a portfolio. I told you I'm not just a stockbroker. You told me I was playing with spreadsheets. Marcus's phone rang. He looked at the screen and his face went even paler. It's Michael Brennan. Who? Mom asked. The CEO of Brennan Development. One of the biggest real estate developers in the city. Why would he be calling me? He answered with a shaking voice. Hello. Yes, this is Marcus. What? No, she's my sister. I don't know if. Can you hold on? He looked at me with wide eyes. He wants to know if I can introduce him to you. He's been trying to get a meeting for 2 years. I took a bite of salmon. I'm busy. She's busy, Marcus repeated into the phone. No, I don't think. I can't promise. I'll try. Thank you. He hung up. He said his investment fund has been trying to become a Chin Capital client since 2021. He said he'd consider it a personal favor if I could facilitate an introduction. That's nice. Mom's phone rang next. She answered automatically, still staring at me. Hello. Yes, this is Margaret Chin. No, I didn't know. She's my daughter. I'm sorry, who is this? Her eyes widened. The chairwoman of? Oh my God. What? Charity gala? You want Jamie to be the keynote speaker? I don't know if she. How much is the speaking fee? Excuse me. She pulled the phone away from her ear and looked at it like it had bitten her. She just offered you $500,000 to speak at a charity event for 30 minutes. Not interested. Jamie, that's $500,000 for 30 minutes. Mom, my time is worth more than that. The anchor's voice continued from the television. We're now joined by Dr. Richard Ashworth, professor of economics at Columbia. Dr. Ashworth, you've studied exceptional investors. Where does Jamie Chin rank? Historically, in the top 5 greatest investment minds of all time, the professor responded. Her risk-adjusted returns are actually better than Warren Buffett's when you compare their first 7 years. What makes Chin truly exceptional is her ability to identify emerging trends before they're obvious. She invested heavily in remote work technology in early 2019, before the pandemic made it essential. She bet on mRNA technology in 2018. She bought cryptocurrency mining operations in 2020 when everyone thought the crypto bubble had burst. She's not lucky. She's prescient. Dad was scrolling through his phone, his face getting redder by the second. There are articles here going back 2 years. Mystery investor JM outperforms every hedge fund. The smartest person on Wall Street you've never heard of. Why won't JM take our money? He looked up at me. This entire time, people have been writing about you? Some people. His voice cracked. You're being compared to Warren Buffett. The New York Times called you the most important financial mind of the 21st century. That's hyperbolic. Marcus had gone back to his phone, frantically reading. Your building, the one you work in, you own it? The whole building? Yes. It's worth $200 million? Approximately. The valuation fluctuates based on market conditions. And you bought it with cash? It was the most tax-efficient approach. Most tax-efficient. Marcus trailed off, then started reading again. His voice got quieter. You also own a townhouse in Tribeca purchased for $45 million. A penthouse in London worth £30 million. A beach house in Malibu valued at $28 million. And a private island in the Bahamas. The island was a strategic purchase. The previous owner was desperate to sell and I got it below market value. Below market value, Mom repeated faintly. How much is a private island at below market value? 12 million. She made a small whimpering sound. Let's return to the market impact, the anchor said, pulling up a chart. In the hour since Chen's identity was revealed, total market capitalization has increased by approximately $70 billion, primarily in stocks she's known to hold. This is the Jamie Chen effect, and it's already being studied by economists. 70 billion? Dad whispered. The SEC filing revealed her major positions, the analyst explained. When the market sees that Jamie Chen owns significant stakes in these companies, investors assume she knows something they don't. Because historically she does. Her track record is perfect. Every major position she's held has appreciated by at least 300%. Marcus's phone rang again. Then Dad's. Then Mom's. All three of them stared at their devices like they were seeing phones for the first time. It's the Caldwells, Mom said, referring to their country club friends. They want to know if you're accepting new clients. No. Jamie, they're offering to invest $50 million. I'm not accepting new clients. I have a waiting list of qualified investors offering substantially more than that. Dad answered his phone. Hello, Bill. She doesn't. I'm not her financial advisor. I'm her father. I don't have that kind of influence. Yes, I'll mention it, but I understand it's urgent. Everyone's calling. Yes. Goodbye. He set the phone down carefully. That was Bill Richardson. He runs the Richardson Fund. I know who he is. He manages $8 billion. I'm aware. He wants to invest with you. All $8 billion. He says your returns are so far beyond industry standards that even with your 2-and-20 fee structure, he'd still come out ahead. Tell him no. Jamie, he's offering you $8 billion. I don't need it. I'm selective about my clients. Mr. Richardson doesn't meet my criteria. Your criteria? Marcus's voice was strangled. You're turning down $8 billion? Do you know what our entire family business is worth? About $200 million across all properties. You just turned down 40 times our family's total net worth. Different investment philosophies. The television had switched to a split screen with multiple financial experts. The question everyone's asking, one analyst said, is what's next for Jamie Chen? At 30 years old with $3 billion in personal wealth, will she retire? Start a hedge fund? Run for office? Sources say she's deeply private, another expert responded. She's apparently turned down hundreds of media requests over the years. This SEC filing was mandatory, she couldn't avoid it once her holdings crossed certain thresholds. But by all accounts she prefers to work quietly. Smart, a third analyst interjected. Her edge is in seeing things others miss. Media attention could compromise that. My phone continued vibrating. I turned it face down again. Aren't you going to answer that? Mom asked weakly. It's just my assistant letting me know that the press has figured out where I live. Building security is already handling it. Building security, Dad repeated. You're building security. Yes. Because you own the building. Yes. The $200 million building. I think we've established that. Marcus suddenly stood up, walked to the window, then walked back, then sat down again. I told you that you should come work in real estate. I said you were wasting your time with stocks. I called you a middleman. You did say that. I bragged about my $400,000 quarterly bonus. Yes. Your quarterly returns are probably, what? Hundreds of millions. Last quarter was good. How good? The portfolio appreciated by approximately $900 million. Mom made that whimpering sound again. But that's not typical, I added. Some quarters are less. Some are more. It averages out. Dad's phone rang again. He looked at it, then looked at me. It's Howard Berkowitz. The real estate developer? He wants to know if you'd consider investing in his new project. He needs $200 million in capital. What's the projected ROI? He says 12% over 5 years. I shook my head. No. Jamie, that's considered a very good return in real estate. It's terrible compared to my usual returns. Why would I accept 12% when I can generate 200%? Because. Dad trailed off. Because. Because you thought real estate was better than stocks? He set his phone down and put his head in his hands. We need to talk about this, Mom said, her voice shaking. We need to understand. 7 years, Jamie. 7 years you let us think you were struggling. We worried about you. We felt sorry for you. I tried to tell you I was fine. Fine? Fine. You're a billionaire. That's not fine, that's extraordinary. It's just numbers, Mom. Just numbers. Marcus laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to it. Just numbers. He says it's just numbers. Jamie, do you understand what you've done? You've beaten the entire financial system. You've outperformed every professional investor on the planet. You're richer than some countries. That's also hyperbolic. Is it? He grabbed his phone again. Your net worth of $3.2 billion puts you above the GDP of 23 countries. You have more money than the annual budget of most cities. You could buy our family business 50 times over and still be a billionaire. But I wouldn't want to. The silence that followed was deafening. Why not? Dad finally asked, his voice small. Because real estate is tangible, remember? You can see it, touch it. But the returns are mediocre compared to strategic equity investments with proper analysis and timing. You're throwing our words back at us, Mom whispered. I'm just stating facts. You built a successful business. It's worth approximately $200 million, generates good cash flow, and provides a comfortable lifestyle. That's admirable. It's also a rounding error in my portfolio. Marcus stood up again, this time walking to the bar and pouring himself a drink with shaking hands. When did this happen? When did you become this? I've always been this. You just weren't paying attention. We paid attention. We had dinner every month. We talked. I listened. There's a difference. Dad's face was still in his hands. All those times we gave you advice about your career. You gave advice based on your understanding of success. Your understanding was incomplete. We told you to be more like Marcus. Marcus flinched. You did. And Marcus has done very well for himself. 400,000 quarterly bonuses are excellent in the real estate sector. He should be proud. Don't patronize me, Marcus said quietly. I'm not. I'm being sincere. You're successful by conventional standards. You drive a nice car, own nice properties, have a good reputation. That's worth something. But it's nothing compared to you. It's different from me. Not nothing. Mom's phone lit up again. She didn't even look at it. What do we do now? You continue with your lives. I continue with mine. But everything's different now. Everyone knows. The whole world knows you're the same person I was an hour ago. The only difference is now other people know what I already knew. We should have known, Dad said, his voice muffled by his hands. We're your parents. How did we not know? I told you. Multiple times. You chose not to hear it. You said you managed investments. I do. You should have said you were a billionaire. Why? Would it have changed how you treated me? Would you have been less dismissive? Would you have listened to what I was actually saying instead of waiting for your turn to give advice? I set down my fork. The money doesn't change who I am. It just reveals who you are. That landed hard. Mom looked like I'd slapped her. We're proud of you, she said weakly. We've always been proud. No, you weren't. You were disappointed. You thought I was wasting my potential. You felt sorry for me because I drove an old Honda and rented an apartment. We just wanted better for you. You wanted what you understood. Real estate. Physical assets. Something tangible. You couldn't comprehend that I was building something you couldn't see. Marcus finished his drink and poured another. So what happens now? You're going to cut us off? Punish us for not recognizing your genius? No. Nothing changes. We'll still have dinners. You'll still give me unsolicited advice about my career. Mom will still worry about my lifestyle. Dad will still check his phone at the table. But you're not going to tell us anything about your actual life. I've been telling you for 7 years. You weren't listening. The television had moved on to expert panels discussing the broader implications of my disclosure. One economist was arguing that my success proved market efficiency was a myth. Another was insisting I was a statistical anomaly. A third was calling for regulatory investigation, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because my return seemed too good to be true. They're going to investigate you, Dad said, looking at the screen. They already have. 3 times. The SEC knows exactly how I operate. Everything is legal, documented, and transparent. But people are going to say many things. Most of them will be wrong. Some will be jealous. Some will be conspiratorial. I don't control that. I only control my investment decisions. Mom reached across the table, then pulled her hand back, unsure. Can we start over? Can I understand what you actually do? I identify undervalued assets with significant growth potential, invest strategically, manage risk through diversification and options hedging, and compound returns over time while minimizing tax liability. I don't know what half of those words mean. I know. Can you explain it in terms I'd understand? I could, but you wouldn't be interested. You think stocks are gambling. You think real estate is superior. You think I should be more like Marcus. I don't think that anymore. You thought it an hour ago. She didn't have an answer for that. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text. He looked at it and went pale again. My boss just texted me. He wants to know if I can introduce him to you. Your boss who told you that you were the most successful young real estate developer in the city? Yes. Tell him no. Jamie, he's my boss. This could affect my career. Then quit. Come work for me. The offer hung in the air like a grenade. What? Marcus whispered. You're good at what you do. You're organized, detail-oriented, and understand property markets. I'm considering expanding into real estate investment trusts. I need someone who knows the sector. Starting salary is $2 million per year plus performance bonuses that could reach 8 figures. His mouth opened and closed silently. But you'd be an employee, working for your little sister, taking direction from someone you called a middleman. Can your ego handle that? I don't. Think about it. The offer expires when I leave tonight. Dad finally lifted his head. You'd hire your brother after everything he said? He's qualified. His personal opinions about my career are irrelevant if he can do the job. What about me? Dad asked. What about the family business? What about it? Would you invest in it? We could expand. With your capital we could. No. Why not? Because it's not a good investment. Your returns are mediocre, your growth strategy is limited by your risk tolerance, and your management style is too conservative for the kind of expansion that would justify my capital. Dad looked like I'd punched him. I'm not saying you're bad at what you do. You've built a successful business. But successful and investable are different things. I can get better returns elsewhere. So that's it? Your family business isn't good enough for you. It's not personal. It's mathematics. My responsibility to my clients is generating maximum risk-adjusted returns. Investing in your business would compromise that responsibility. We're your family. Which is why I won't insult you by making a charity investment. You've spent 7 years telling me real estate is superior to stocks. You should be relieved I'm not bringing my inferior investing skills into your business. Mom made a choking sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. My phone vibrated again. I checked it this time. I need to go. My security team says there are reporters outside my apartment. Your apartment that's worth $45 million, Marcus said dully. Yes. The apartment we thought was small and embarrassing. You thought that. I liked it fine. I stood up, placing my napkin on the table. The television was still going, now showing footage of the building that housed Chin Capital Management, reporters crowding the entrance, investors arriving with briefcases. Thank you for dinner, Mom. The salmon was excellent. Jamie, wait. She stood up too, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. We didn't understand. We should have listened better. We should have believed in you. You should have. But you didn't. And that tells me something important about where we stand. What does it tell you? Dad asked quietly. That you love me conditionally. When you thought I was unsuccessful, you were embarrassed. Now that you know I'm wealthy, you're proud. But I'm the same person. The money didn't change me. It just changed how you see me. That's not fair, Marcus protested weakly. Isn't it? An hour ago you were offering to let me work for Dad as a favor. Now you want me to invest in the family business. An hour ago Mom was pitying me for driving an old car. Now she wants to understand my work. What changed? No one answered. I'll see you next month for dinner. Same time, same place. And we can all pretend this conversation never happened while you give me advice about my life that you're spectacularly unqualified to give. I walked to the door. Behind me I heard Mom start to cry. Dad's phone rang again. Marcus poured another drink. The television continued its breathless coverage of the financial world's newest sensation. At the door I turned back one last time. They were all frozen in place, looking lost in their own home, like they'd been displaced by the revelation of who I really was. For what it's worth, I said quietly, I never wanted you to feel small. I just wanted you to see me clearly. You never did. I left them there, surrounded by their tangible assets and their shattered assumptions, while CNBC speculated about my next move and my phone continued its endless vibrating. The drive back to Manhattan was quiet except for the notifications I'd muted. The Honda ran fine just like I'd told them. Money didn't change what I needed from a car. But it had changed everything else. Tomorrow I'd hold that press conference. The world would want to know my secrets, my strategy, my plans. They'd offer me everything, partnerships, positions, platforms. I'd turn them all down. Because the only validation I'd ever needed was the kind my family couldn't give me until everyone else already knew the truth. And by then it was too late to matter. The numbers on my portfolio continued to grow, compounding and multiplying, building wealth that I'd never asked for their permission to create. Turns out I didn't need their belief after all. I just needed to be right. And I was.